When we think about why wars start, we usually point to human inventions. We fight over borders, religious doctrines, or political ideologies. But right now, deep in an African jungle, a brutal, highly organized civil war is tearing a society apart within the animal kingdom. This is taking place in Uganda, inside Kibale National Park. It's home to the Ngogo chimpanzees. With over 200 members, the Ngogo group is the largest chimpanzee community ever recorded by scientists. For decades, they operated almost like a unified nation-state, even patrolling their outer territory together to keep rival groups out. We share a common ancestor that lived just 6 million years ago, resulting in a 98.8% match in our DNA. Chimps are our closest living relatives. These animals don't have religious texts, they don't have political parties, they don't have spoken language, yet they are systematically killing each other. In a world without ideology, what drives a family to tear itself apart? The answer may reside in the biology we share with them. For over 2 decades, researchers observed complete peace. The Ngogo group was massive, organized into 2 main neighborhoods, a central cluster and a western cluster. Chimpanzees moved freely between both, sharing food, finding mates, and grooming each other like one large intertwined family. Then, in 2014, the ecosystem suffered a severe shock. Over the span of just 1 month, 5 adult males died, likely from a sudden illness. This maps their social network. The central and western neighborhoods are held together by 5 individuals, the bridge males. They traveled back and forth, keeping both sides familiar. When they died, that social bridge shattered. The daily interactions completely stopped. The situation quickly deteriorated. The following year, the group's alpha male was overthrown, destabilizing the power balance. Then, in 2017, a severe respiratory outbreak swept through the jungle, killing 25 more members. Disease and a change in leadership didn't cause the chimps to attack each other immediately, but these systemic shocks destroyed their baseline stability. The community was stressed, fractured, and deeply isolated, creating a fragile environment where a single spark could ignite total violence. That spark caught on June 24, 2015. A patrol of western chimpanzees heard the familiar calls of the central group echoing through the trees. Instead of walking over to greet their old friends, the western chimps fell dead silent, and then they turned and ran away. This map illustrates the geographical reality of that silence. By 2017, the single unified territory had completely split. The chimpanzees carved out 2 distinct zones, drawing a boundary through the jungle that became 2 hostile nations with strictly patrolled borders. A year later, the avoidance turned into slaughter. Over the next few years, at least 28 chimpanzees were killed, including 19 infants. Another 14 adult males from the central group vanished entirely, likely victims of the violence. The tactical reality of this conflict surprised researchers. The central group was much larger, yet the smaller western faction dominated them. The western chimps had intense social cohesion. Because their internal bonds were so tight, they could organize and execute highly lethal, targeted raids against their divided neighbors. Within just a few years, chimps that used to share food were committing calculated, systematic violence against one another. It proved that simply stopping communication and separating into isolated corners is enough to plant the seeds of war. This exact phenomenon had actually been reported once before. In the 1970s, the famed primate researcher Jane Goodall witnessed a chimpanzee community in Tanzania's Gombe National Park split into 2 factions and wage a 4-year war of annihilation. But Goodall's observations triggered a 50-year debate. Critics argued that the Gombe War was an artificial conflict. Researchers there had been feeding the chimps bananas to get closer to them, and scientists insisted that this human interference created unnatural competition for food. The Ngogo case provides a different perspective. Researchers never fed these chimpanzees. There was no human interference. This indicates that organized, factional violence can emerge under entirely natural conditions, rooted in primate behavior. Which brings us back to us. We tend to believe that securing peace requires complex cultural diplomacy, We tell ourselves that if we just align our political ideologies or practice religious tolerance, we can avoid conflict. But the fracture at Ngogo suggests that violence doesn't require a clash of civilizations. It only requires a period of silence. When the bridge males died, the two sides stopped interacting. Familiarity vanished, and old friends became faceless threats. Peace doesn't live on paper, and it isn't guaranteed by shared ideologies. As the Ngogo chimpanzees show us, the path to war opens the exact moment we stop talking to each other, retreat to our corners, and let our everyday connections die.